This morning, Brother Randall asked a question, and I promised that this afternoon I would, I would respond to the question, because I said something that, I mean, I understand that it's a shock for Randall to hear me say something like this, and I understand. A few years ago, I would never think that I would say something like that, but I promised that I would look at it first of all before we continue with our study on Revelation. It's also related to the Revelation study, so I'm going to take the first half an hour or so and answer that question. And the question that Brother Randall asked is, am I saying that I don't believe that Sunday worship is the mark of the beast? Am I saying this? And I think I might not have come out and said it straight, but I'm going to say straight that it's what I believed all my life. But right now, I don't believe it anymore, and I'm going to explain why. If it's a shock, I apologize. But I think if you look at what I'm going to share, you will understand why I said. Now, I'm not going to use. I'm going to divest myself, as most of us have done. We have divested ourselves of anything except the Bible, what the Bible says. All of us have come to the conclusion this is what we ought to believe. So I'm using the Bible as my basis. And the mark of the beast is something that comes exclusively from the book of Revelation. That's where we find it, and that's where we ought to begin our questions and our understanding of what is involved in the mark of the beast. I'm going to put an image on the screen, and I'm going to ask a question here that I don't want to put Randall on the spot, so I'm not going to ask him the question, but it's a question I'm going to address to everybody. And if Randall wants to answer, he can, but I'm asking everybody else to hold your peace, all right? Okay. So I have an image on the screen, and I want to ask a question. Everybody recognizes this image. It's an image of the woman riding the beast, and everybody understands that this is taken from Revelation 17, where it talks about Babylon. Now, the question I want to ask is, who is this woman? Who is this woman? I know that there are different understandings, but this is a question I want Randall to consider. And like I said, if you want to respond, fine. If not, I'm still going to draw a conclusion based on what I know of Adventist teaching and what I've been taught as an Adventist. I've been taught that this woman represents primarily the Roman Catholic Church. If this is not what you understood, you could correct me, but I've been taught that this woman is primarily the Roman Catholic Church. So the next question I have to ask is, who is the beast that the woman is riding? Who is the beast that the woman is riding? Now, Adventist teaching says that the beast is the papacy. And the same teaching says that the woman is the Catholic Church. Now, why is that impossible? And I'm going to show you why it is impossible. In Revelation 17, I wanted to look at something that is said here. It says, Revelation 17, where it talks about the woman riding the beast. Look at what it says in verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Who hates Babylon and burns her with fire? Who hates Babylon and burns her with fire? It is the 10 horns which are on the beast. Now, the 10 horns, if they are on the beast, they're a part of the beast. So it means that the beast will destroy the woman. If the woman is the Roman Catholic Church and the beast is a papacy, which is a Roman Catholic Church institution, how can the Catholic Church destroy the Catholic Church? This is the first thing that made me start to re-examine my position. Furthermore, let me show you something. In the next chapter, Revelation 18, we see the destruction of Babylon. Babylon, it says, if you read through chapter 18, it says that Babylon is burned. It says that the shipmaster and all they cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, "What city is like unto this great city? Babylon is destroyed by the 10 horns." And they cast dust on their heads, and they cried, weeping and wailing, saying, "Alas, alas, that great city!" And it goes on to say, "The voice of harpers and musicians and so on shall be no more heard in thee." And it talks about the destruction of Babylon. So Babylon is wiped out by the 10 horns. But what about the beast? The beast remains. The beast is not destroyed by the 10 horns, because the 10 horns are a part of the beast. And when you go to Revelation 19, the next chapter, look at what you see. In chapter 19, you see Jesus coming back. He's coming back. I saw heaven opened, and a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. In righteousness he does judge and make war. Jesus is coming back to this planet, and he's coming for his people. And look at what happens. I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. At this time, where is the woman? Where is the woman Babylon? She has been destroyed by the 10 horns. They have eaten her flesh, made her naked, and burned her with fire. But here is the beast. The beast is still alive. The beast is alive at the coming of Jesus, but Babylon is already wiped out. Because it says of the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him. And it says, these both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. So the beast is thrown into the lake of fire burning with brimstone, while the woman Babylon is destroyed sometime before. The point I'm making is that Babylon and the beast cannot be the same thing. If Babylon represents the Roman Catholic institution, the beast cannot represent the Roman Catholic institution. They are two different things. As a matter of fact, the beast, through the 10 horns, helps to attack the woman and to destroy her. They are two different things. This is what the Bible teaches. So this is the point I'm making, and I'm going to build on it and show you why that is important. So what we can see when we look at the picture is that Rome has been riding the beast. The papacy, the woman, the religious institution has been riding the beast, but the beast is not a religious institution. It is a political institution. The beast is not the papacy. The beast it represents what the woman has been riding all these centuries. And what the woman has been riding, what the Roman Church has been riding these centuries is the first of all, it was riding, the woman is an ancient woman. She goes back over the ages. The latest manifestation of the woman is the papacy. But she's sitting on this beast, and the beast is an ancient entity. He has had 7 heads, and those 7 heads are the heads that you can see in the book of Daniel and going back through the ages. The latest, the beast only has 1 head at each time. But God shows us the beast with 7 heads because he's showing us that the beast is an ancient system. But the present manifestation of the beast is Europe or the European Union. The Roman Catholic Church is located in Europe, and it has been dominant over Europe for all these centuries. But the beast is not the papacy. The beast is a European secular system. Just like Rome was the beast, Babylon was the beast, Medo-Persia was the beast, Greece was the beast. It is the same area of the earth where these political powers have ruled, and the Roman Catholic Church has been sitting on this beast. Now, the Bible says that towards the end of time, they are going to turn against the Roman Church, and they are going to eat her flesh, make her naked, and burn her with fire. This is coming. Go ahead, Randall.
Well, if you go back in history, the original Babylon was secular and religious. Remember, it was both. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just secular, and it wasn't just a government. It was religious. Also, if you go through history, all of these other forms of the beast that you just mentioned, all of them were secular and religious. And the Catholic Church has always been, since the 500s or so, somewhere along in there, it became the same thing. It became part of the beast because it is secular and religious. It's not
Yes,
just a religion by itself. It's both.
sure. All right, I'm accepting that. But in the book of in Revelation 17, the religious part and the secular part are shown as two distinct things, separate things. Because even though there has been this kind of, when God talks about Babylon, he refers to her, one of her sins, as fornication. In other words, it was always God's plan that religion and the secular power should be separated. So even though the woman has been riding the beast, as you said, through the ages, it has been a relationship and not a union. It has been a relationship, and the relationship breaks up at the end of time. That's what I'm saying. Because clearly the woman is destroyed and the beast remains. That's the point I'm making. So why am I making this point? Because the mark of the beast is the mark of the secular power. It's not the mark of the woman. This is the point I'm making. The mark of the beast is not the mark of the woman. The woman is distinct and separate from the beast. So if you are looking for the mark of we have said that that Sunday observance is a mark of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, granted, the Roman Catholics have said this. They have said Sunday observance is the mark of our authority. So we could say Sunday observance is a mark of the woman. But the woman is not the beast, and the Bible specifies that the mark is the mark of the beast. What we're looking for is something relating to the beast as opposed to the woman. Now, God is the one who makes a distinction between the woman and the beast. So we can't ignore this distinction. The reason why Adventists and others have come up with the idea that the mark of the beast is Sunday observance is because they have equated the beast with the Roman Catholic Church. But in Revelation 17, God shows you that there are two different things. They are distinct and separate. As a matter of fact, it says of the beast in Revelation 17 that the beast comes out of the bottomless pit. It has a wound, and the wound is healed, and the beast re-emerges from the bottomless pit. So it's not presented in Revelation 17 as a religious power. The religious entity is the woman that is riding the beast. And God says of the woman that she has committed fornication with the kings of the earth. That is
Can
the
I ask a
woman.
question, David?
Question, Brother Ray.
Yes, yes. Really quick. When was the deadly wound inflicted on that beast? At what period of time?
Okay. The question is going to complicate this study, but let me see if I can. I know that one question leads to another, and it leads to the place where we are going to have to open up all of Revelation 17. So I'm going to answer that as quickly as I can and move on. I'm not taking any more questions on that particular angle because it's complicated. So if we say that the beast represents the papacy, then of course the idea is that when the Pope was taken captive in 1798, then the papacy received a deadly wound. If the beast is the papacy, but I'm saying that the beast is not the papacy. I'm saying that the beast is the European power that goes back through Babylon, Media, Persia. It's one power, but it has had different heads. Now, in my understanding, Rome as a unified power was broken when it was divided up by the barbarian tribes back in the 5th century. 476, I think, was the time when they said the Roman Empire was broken. Since that time, we have not had a unified Roman Empire. But the Bible says that that Roman Empire continues until the very end. So in one way or the other, the beast is still the Roman Empire. It is still Rome. And I believe the present manifestation of Rome is the European Union. That's how secular Rome manifests itself today. And the woman is still riding upon that power. The woman is still riding the power. There is still a relationship between the woman, Rome, the Roman Catholic institution, and the powers of Europe. But the Bible says the Romans is going to fade out, is going to fizz out. And near the end of time, they are going to turn against that system and they are going to rape the system, loot the system, and burn the system with fire. I don't believe it is literal burning, But I think what they're going to do is they're going to take away all the property and all the money and all the goods from the Roman Catholic Church. Now I know this is not what people believe. You can look at all the books and you can study all the writings by Alberto Rivera and all the other people, and you can listen to Professor Walter White, and all of them will tell you that the great institution that controls the world is a Roman Catholic Church. They will tell you this. And this narrative has infected everybody's mind till it's almost blasphemy to suggest. It's almost impossible for somebody to think that Rome is not the power in the background pulling the strings. But if you look at the prophecy says Rome is riding the beast. And she has committed fornication. She has a golden cup in her hand, full of the wine of her fornication. She has great influence and power over the nations until a certain time. That's what the Bible says. I don't expect the Roman Catholic Church to be there as a dominant power at the coming of Jesus. The Bible says it will be the beast, the European power, and the false prophet, the American power. It won't be religious powers. There are going to be two great secular entities that try to destroy God's people. In other words, what I'm saying, before you, Brother Ian.
Brother David.
Yeah,
I think you're confused. Yeah, the term you use, Rome, you need to keep referring to Rome, riding the beast. I think it's a little bit confusing. I think you prefer to say papacy or something like that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm using a generalized term, okay? Because somebody will say, when I say Rome, am I talking about the Roman Catholic Church or the Roman Catholic institution, which is the papacy? And I'm using the word Rome generally because I'm speaking about the entire Roman system, Roman Catholic system. If anybody thinks I'm talking about the city of Rome, then I think you're very confused about what I believe, because the city of Rome, in my opinion, plays no part in this. The city of Rome, long ago ceased to be a factor in prophecy. When I talk about Rome as secular Rome, we mean the Roman Empire, which was not the city of Rome. And when we talk about Rome in a spiritual sense, I mean the Roman Catholic institution. But the point of what I'm saying is that the picture that emerges, that I see when I look at the Bible, is that as time passes, the world is becoming more secular and more atheistic. Now, what Adventists in general believe is that there's going to be a great backlash. Many of them believe that what's his name? Trump. Many believe that Trump is the one who is going to do this. He's going to bring about a great revival of religion in America, and this religion is going to overthrow the Democrats and the leftists, and America is going to be restored to a Christianized country, and this Christianized country is going to push the Sunday laws. Everything is about the Sunday laws. They said that when the Pope had a meeting at Mount Sinai with some other leaders recently, they were going to set up the Sunday law agenda. Everybody is fixated on the Sunday law. And this is where I was, right? But at the same time, it was studying the Bible that made me start to think, because I saw where the woman is wiped out by the 10 horns and the beast remains. The woman is wiped out and the beast remains. How do you explain this? There is something about the woman and the beast that is different. Now, the only thing we can say that the woman is not the Roman Catholic Church, or the Roman Catholic Church is not included in the woman. Then we have to find some other meaning to it. What is it that is riding upon the beast? And the beast has always been a representation of the secular powers of Europe. Always. The secular powers of the old world. The secular power of the new world is this two-horned beast. Another beast comes up out of the earth, and we have said it is America, and I agree with this 100%. But what we see is that the first beast is the old world beast. And in Revelation, God gives us all of them in one symbol. In the book of Daniel, it was lion, bear, leopard, and the great and terrible beast. But in Revelation, God puts them all under one symbol, and he says they have 7 heads. So it's all of these put together in one. But it shows you this is secular, the secular powers of the old world. And this is what the woman is riding. And they have this fornicating or adulterous relationship. But when it comes to the end, the romance is over and they turn against the woman. Why? because the world gets fed up of religion. They are fed up of religion. Right now, they are sick of religion. They attack Christianity on every corner. Right now, if you say you're a Christian in most of these first world countries, they take you as an idiot. They don't want to hear anything about Christianity. We Christians have been waiting for there to be an overturn of this, a backlash. We are waiting for the world to become Christianized. We are waiting for the atheists to become Christians, for the Chinese to become Christians, for the Hindus to become Christians. And then we are going to tell them all about keeping the Sabbath. And so the 1 billion people in China are going to learn that they must keep the Sabbath. And the 1 billion people in India are going to learn that they need to keep the Sabbath. They are going to change from Hinduism, they're going to change from Shintoism, and everybody is going to become a Christian. But they are going to become Sunday keeping Christians. And they are going to attack Seventh-day Adventists. And we are going to be the center of persecution. We Seventh-day Adventists. This is the Adventist paradigm. This is the Adventist picture of the mark of the beast. Now, when Adventists came up with this teaching back in the 1880s, a Sunday law was about to be passed in America. And I am not saying that it was not a reality at that time. It was. I understand that it was A.T. Jones who went before the Senate committee or whatever it was, and he argued the case. He argued against this bill. And he's one of the persons who was instrumental in getting them to change the passing of that Sunday law. Okay, I understand this. But I'll tell you something. When God is bringing something to test people, the test will come back again in the future, but it never comes back in the same form. It doesn't. Because if the test comes back in the same way twice, it's not a test anymore. When you are tested on a certain matter one time, and if it happens that for some reason that test is withdrawn, it's not coming back the same way. Because if it comes back the same way, it's no longer a test. So I am convinced that the mark of the beast comes in a way that people completely do not expect it to come. It's not the way that it came the first time. Because if it comes back the same way, it's not a test to these people. Okay? So what I'm saying is that the mark of the beast is not a religious mark, yet it is something that will test people's loyalty to God. It's something that will test people's loyalty to God, but it's not a religious mark. We Adventists have made it well, let me say Adventists. Let me not say we, because I'm not a member of the church, okay? And I don't even identify myself that way anymore. But Adventists have identified this mark as something to do with keeping the commandments. Some of the things I want to say are dependent upon what we understand already, and I don't even know how to say them. I want to say this. If Sunday keeping is the mark of the beast, if it has to do with the Sabbath Sunday issue, we have a duty to go out there and tell the whole world that they must keep the Sabbath. How can we tell the world to do this? What do we have to do? We have to tell the world that we have to go out there and promote to the world the law. We have to lift up the law before the world. We have to make the world know, including the Chinese and the communists and the atheists, we have to make everybody know that the law says you must keep the Sabbath holy. What we have to present to people is law. We have to go there and teach them the law, and we have to push the law. This is the whole reason why those who believe in the Sunday law are very much fixated on the law. Based on what we can see in the Bible on the issue of righteousness by faith, the law is not to be our message. Our message is Christ and his righteousness. This is the message for the world, not the law. God's people are no longer under the law. So that's another perspective from which the whole thing appears to be contrary. Somebody's mic is unmuted. Brother Joel, go ahead.
When you can find time for a question.
All right, Brother Joel. Yeah, I was just saying that it is clear that we would have to become. Go ahead, Brother Joel.
Okay, sorry about that. I hope I didn't cause you to lose your train of thought.
Right.
Is there a place, David, for appreciating what we can see in terms of the inner workings of Catholicism. For example, the work behind the scene that the Jesuit order is doing, that is humanistic, pantheistic, occult, like, which has a lot to do with these world governments and their paradigm in which they're coming together to form what we understand is this entity that will stand against God's people in the last day. There is a lot that the Roman Catholicism and what it is doing in terms of setting the system in place. Those who are leaders within it. I can't get away from the idea that they're still going to be playing a role even after the Roman Catholic Church, in terms of its place as a Christian organization, quote unquote, will have left the scene because of what you said about religion and the religious position that it takes as a Christian entity, regardless of how we might see it. The rest of the world does see it as a Christian entity. Isn't that where some people are having the disconnect? Because they understand the work of the Jesuits, again, in terms of formulating the power structures that we find within the world today as being essential for this government that is going to be set in place.
Well, let me be very frank with you, Brother Joel. When people ask about the Jesuits, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergers, and those kinds of people, I can't give an informed opinion because I've not made that a subject of great study, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, I hear people talk about. I mean, when people talk about, most people seem to believe that there are some mysterious hidden powers that are pulling the strings in the world, manipulating world affairs and so on. And we will say they are planning so and so, they are planning so and so. Okay, they gave us the pandemic, they're going to cause a money crash. I don't even know who is the they. If you listen to Walter White, it's the Jesuits. If you listen to somebody else, it's the Illuminati, which may be the same Jesuits. I mean, to be honest, I cannot give an informed opinion on this, but here's what I know. I look at things from what I see in the Bible. That's where I look at things. So whoever is doing it, for me, it still doesn't change the overall outcome of what the Bible says it can't. So I see Satan as being the one whoever he's using, whether it's Jesuits, Illuminati, or whoever he's using. The Bible says the end result of it is this: the woman is to be taken out of the way by the 10 horns. Those 10 horns are an aspect of the beast. They are sitting on the head of the beast. They're a part of the beast. So the beast will wipe out the woman. The beast is the last enemy of God's people on this planet. The last enemy that we have is the beast, not the woman. Now, the woman, obviously, is a religious power. And obviously, it is a false religious power. So what we know is that false religion has a great part to play in the development of how things develop in this planet up until the end, because she is in an adulterous cooperation with the beast until it comes to the place where she's taken out of the way, and that hasn't happened yet. So clearly, she, whether through her churches, her institutions, her politicians, her Jesuits, whatever, she is having a great effect in how the world is developing. But the point I'm making, the real point I'm making, is that the mark of the beast is the mark of the beast. It's not the mark of the woman. The Roman Catholic Church has pushed Sunday worship. And we could say Sunday worship is a mark of the woman. It's not the mark of the beast, because the beast is not the Roman Catholic institution.
I don't disagree with what you just said. I think the conclusions you're coming to in regards to that verse, as it pertains to the woman being burnt by the horns, destroyed by the horns, you can't get away from that, David. I'm just, putting forward a reason as to why it might be difficult, even for some of us sitting here, to fully grasp onto what you're saying, because whereas you might be unaware, you haven't spent any time looking at these systems that are intertwined between the governments of this world, the whole Jesuit order, and the Roman Catholic Church. It's hard to imagine a world power without seeing that system being the means by which it is achieved. So yes, Rome as a Christian church and as an entity with the Pope sitting over it, I can see that being completely wiped away and gone, as it is saying here in Revelation, as you're putting forward. I agree with you about what the mark of the beast then has to be. It won't be Sunday worship because that is the mark of, religious Rome. But it's hard to get past the effects that we still see in place in terms of the operations within the governments around the world, unless the Lord is further away from coming than we think. If it is as close to coming as we think, and you have spent time looking at it, it's hard to not recognize that political role in terms of the agenda, the secret agenda, that is, very occultist in its in how it is formulated, should still be in place in some way. It's hard to imagine that in the short term.
Right. So,
David, can I ask a question?
sure, I'll go ahead.
What if the Sunday observance is not brought in by the Catholic Church, but brought in by secular power, i.e., to the climate change? Because then it's not a secular, it's coming in as a secular, not as a religious. And you could
Sure.
also have the Sabbath as also not the law, but because it was given before the law was.
Okay. So the thing is, brother, it doesn't. The reason why it wouldn't change what I'm saying is this. Remember that the mark, the way we come to the conclusion that it is the mark of the beast, I think I have to mute everybody. Brother Modest, give me a break.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll get to you in a moment. Yeah, we say that the Sunday observance is the mark of the Catholic Church, and we quote from the Catholic Church writings where they say it is a mark of our authority. That's how we establish Sunday observance as the mark of the beast. We go to the statements of the Catholic Church. If secular Europe or secular America makes a Sunday law as a part of their agenda, then it doesn't fulfill the specifications of the prophecy, because the prophecy is it's the mark of the beast. It's who the mark belongs to. I keep saying our. Okay, I'm thinking of myself in the context of an Adventist. But what Adventists say, because that is what we are looking at, that is what I am countering. What Adventists say is that the mark is the mark of the beast. The Bible says so, and then they say the beast is the Catholic Church, right? If it's the mark of the woman, then it doesn't fulfill the specifications, because it has to be the mark that belongs to the beast. There is something else that is more clearly related to the beast. The secular beast has nothing to do with the Sabbath. As a matter of fact, the secular Rome, Europe, America, the furthest thing from their mind is Sunday observance. And I'll tell you something else about it too. I'll tell you something else about it. If they were to pass a Sunday law tomorrow to demand that everybody observe Sunday, Ellen White herself says that when this happens, Adventists are to keep services on Sunday. Ellen White herself said that. They said they should try to keep a service on Sunday as much as possible. And furthermore, already most of us don't work on Sunday. So if a Sunday law is passed, how does that affect anybody? How does that affect anybody if there's a Sunday law passed? The only thing that could affect people is if there was a Sabbath law passed. If there's a law forbidding people to worship on Sabbath, that would be an issue. Not a Sunday law, but a Sabbath law. But the emphasis is a Sunday law. A Sunday law is nothing to any of us, because most of us already don't work on a Sunday. And some of us already, sometimes we have fasting or prayer on a Sunday. If they demanded that we stop working on a Sunday, that affects nobody. So it would never bring persecution upon Sabbath keepers, right? The only thing was if a law was made forbidding Sabbath worship, and I've never heard anybody suggest that there will be such a law. And if they made such a law, it wouldn't be a problem, because you stay home and you stay in your home and worship. Nobody knows that you're worshiping. How does that become a problem to anybody? If they say don't worship on Sabbath, stop going to church on Sabbath. They did that during the pandemic, and we met online. And if they say stop meeting online, my family will meet at home and will worship God just the same. We have no problem. How does that become an issue? So when you look at it logically, there is no way that such a law could really become a test for the people. And furthermore, it would not only be a test for, it would be something that not only Adventists know about, but everybody in the world, including those people up in the Himalayas and those people in China. Like I said, those places where you have billions of people in the world who do not even know about Christianity, far less about Sabbath worship. We would first have to persuade them that they need to become Christians. Then we need to persuade them that they need to become Sabbath-keeping Christians. And then they turn and accept Sunday worship for the whole world to be tested. If that is what is going to happen, we have a very, very, very long time left, because there are billions of people who still do not know anything about Christianity, far less the Sabbath. What I see from looking at the Bible is that the beast, there is something that is associated with the beast. That there is a threat of it being imposed on the entire planet. And you don't need to be a Christian or an Adventist to know that it is wrong. Now, most of you are familiar with what I've said, but I'm going to put it out there because there are some of us who are brand new to this idea. When you look at Europe, America, Australia, the first world countries, the countries that are the richest in the world, and the countries that constitute the beast and the false prophet, there is something that they are pushing on the rest of the world. There's something that they are pushing on the rest of the world, that every chicken and every dog and every fowl in every corner of this planet, they know it is wrong. And what I'm talking about is the homosexual agenda. It is a mark. It is a mark. This morning, I'm coming here, Brother Modest. I'm sorry to have you out there so long, but I want to make my point. What we looked at this morning, God says that in Romans chapter 1, God says that the mark of people when they reject God. If you were looking at our study this morning in Romans 1, first of all, people know about God. They do not like to retain God in their knowledge. They reject God. They become arrogant and proud. They start to worship the creature more than the creator. And then they turn to homosexual behavior. The society begins to embrace homosexual behavior. It is playing out before our eyes. All of these developed countries are obsessed with pushing the gay agenda on the rest of the world.
David.
I'm coming, Sister Heather. Brother Modest is before you. The gay agenda is far, far more fitting the description than anything else. Brother Modest, go ahead.
Yes, I was gonna ask if the guy who asked the question this morning, if he understands where you're coming from with the study this morning and the explanation this afternoon. And secondly, you just explained the gay movement, that it's the mark of the beast, you're saying, or are you saying that it's that is just the fruit of it? Because this morning you explained about what comes out of you and so forth.
Sure. Brother Randall is the one who asked the question, and Brother Randall has just recently started being fellowshipping with us. So a lot of the things that we might have discussed before, Brother Randall is not familiar with them. So I don't think he fully understands where I was coming from this morning or what I was trying to say. But what I'm saying is what the Bible shows us in Romans chapter 1 is that when a society follows that sequence where they reject God, then they turn around to where God leaves them to themselves. They are separated from God, and the visible product of a society that rejects God is a widespread practice of homosexual behavior. That is it. So the visible mark According to Romans 1, the visible mark of a society that rejects God is homosexual behavior. I'm not making it up. If anybody thinks that I am exaggerating, go back and read Romans 1 and ask yourself, what was God trying to say here through Paul? He gives us a sequence and he says the end point of it is that the men begin to burn in their lust for one another and the women do the same. It's not natural. It's what happens when a society rejects God. The more secular America becomes, the more atheists develop there, the more the evolutionary theory increases in America, a once Christian country, the more you see homosexuality and strange, perverted, queer behavior taking over the country. It started in Europe and it was in Europe for decades before it got to America. Now America has adopted it, has taken it from Europe. And the strange thing is that the only places on the planet where they are resisting it is the poor little backward countries where they still have a lot of respect for God, like the Caribbean countries and the African countries. And they are being overwhelmed because places like America and England and Europe, they are threatening to withhold the aid that they are giving to these countries unless they open up for this perverted lifestyle. This is where the world is pushing. It is not going towards Christianity. One thing that we can know, and I'm coming to you, Sister Heather. One thing we can know is that I see you too, Randall, after Sister Heather. One thing we can know is that there has never been a time in history when the governments of the world have adopted something and they have turned back on it. That has never happened. The only thing that can stop it is another world war where civilization is wiped out and they start again from zero. You think that they have made it possible for men to get married to men? You think they will ever back down on this? This is something that will never go back on because the principles of Satan have taken over the systems of government, and it's not one country. It's almost every country. It's all the countries in the developed world, and they are infecting the lesser countries as well. It's taking over the world. So they are not going back on this. Okay, let me pause a little.
Shortly,
Okay,
just shortly because I'm not quite done, but I understand it's a system that is being set up where homosexuality and the atheism is coming into play, but individuals now, how will they get the mark of the beast? Like how will the system affect each and every individual that you have to have that mark? I understand the system is set up, government set up the systems and so forth, but it still boils down to each individual must accept it. How will they have that mark of the beast?
Yes, you are absolutely right. And the only reason why I am not broadcasting this in every place that I can is because I don't have a clear answer to that question. I know that at one point people were losing their jobs because of it. They were shutting down businesses because of it. They are pushing it into the schools, but I still don't know how it's going to come to every single individual. I know that they are coming to a place where everything that you have, your credit card, your social security number, and the new digital currency that they are coming out with, they can link it to your social credit score. I don't know if it's going to be through that means. Honestly, Brother Modest, I don't know. I know that they are trying to make the gay marriage and that kind of nonsense into a human right. That if a man says he's a woman and you call him, they can prosecute you for it in some places. So I don't know exactly how it is going to be implemented. So that is the one question I cannot answer. I know that when we had the vaccine mandate recently, you could see the structure of how they could take over the world and impose something on everybody. I don't know how they would do the same thing for the gay movement. I don't know. So I can't answer that question. So that is one of the things I'm waiting to see how it develops, to be perfectly frank. Sister Heather, then Brother Randall, then Sister Diane.
Yes, Brother David. I'm a part of another forum where I saw something posted that I sent into the testimonies group this morning, where it said that same-sex marriage, judgment of the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, France, Unanimously, the World Court of Human Rights has established verbatim that there is no right to same-sex marriage. The 47 judges from the 47 countries of the Council of Europe, which are members of the Plenary Court of Strasbourg, and this they say is the most important human rights courts in the world, published a statement of great relevance which has been surprisingly silenced by the progress of information and its field of influence. In fact, all 47 justices unanimously endorsed the ruling that there is no right to same-sex marriage. I was just wondering what effect, since France being a part of the EU, what effect this is probably going to be a fly in the ointment.
Well, let me tell you something. How many people in the world, apart from you, pay any attention to that? That's exactly how much of an effect it is going to have. Okay? That's exactly how much of an effect it has. You know that the nations of Europe, they have come together and they have condemned Putin. Tell me how much effect that has on anything. Putin couldn't care less. You can always come together and condemn. I mean, the United Nations, I think it's a Security Council, condemns Putin. But it's nothing to Putin. Okay? In the same way, the courts can come together and say there's no right to gay marriage. It doesn't affect the countries because even though they might say there's no inherent right, it doesn't affect what the people are doing. The government, even if the court says there's no right, the government will go ahead and do it. What they mean is that a gay person cannot come and sue and say, I have a right. It's not considered, the court has made a decision that you can't make it a right. But what they cannot do is stop countries from making it a right in their country, and that's what's happening. So what I'm saying, some of this information sometimes it's interesting, but it doesn't have any real value in terms of how it affects things really. Brother Randall, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to defend the United States, okay? This country, what people may see on TV, a lot of it is just bold-faced lies. The majority of the people in this country do not believe in the LGBT movement. They don't believe in the homosexual marriage and all that. The majority of the people in this country still believe in a woman and a man being married and having children, just a family as usual. That's what most people in this country believe. That's why the only reason it's succeeding, the only reason that this movement is succeeding at all is because there's a whole lot of rich guys and a whole lot of powerful people backing it. That's all. It's not because the people of this country want it. It's because there's a vast majority of a bunch of rich people and powerful people. Like you got Europeans that are pushing it over here. Soros and that guy Schwab. Them guys are from Europe and they're pushing it. They're pushing the LGBT movement in this country by millions, putting millions of dollars in the Democrats' pockets so that they can push this product that they want. So what I'm saying is, it's not the people of the United States, and it will backlash eventually. You see, the United States will backlash against this before it's over.
All right, thank you, Randall. And I absolutely believe you when you say that it's not the people of the United States. But I will tell you this. What matters in America is what the courts say and the decisions that the Supreme Court makes. Those are the things that really determine the direction of America. And it depends upon, to some extent, upon the judges that are appointed by the president that is in power. And, you know, America is kind of like 50%.
That's not true. It's the Constitution. We have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights. That's our law, and that's what we go by. Even if the Supreme Court says, hey, it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, it can be taken out. Whatever they say can be taken back out of the way because of the Constitution. Just remember that.
What I know is a fact that in most states in America, they are now having men marrying men and women marrying women. So even though you, the people, may not agree with it, it's happening in every state almost in America. It's happening in the states. So when you say it depends upon what the Constitution says, why is it that in most states it's happening? Diane, I see you. Brother Arthur, whole strain, Brother Arthur, you're making noise. What I mean is, practically, what is happening is what we can use to determine the trend. So even though there are so many millions of Americans who don't, I mean, when Trump and Biden were going up against each other, okay, the Republicans say the Democrats stole the election, okay, but what I know is that most people I heard so much talk that the Democrats didn't have a chance. I heard people say the Republicans didn't have a chance. What really happens is that you get a feel of the way people think. Everybody knows that the Democrats were into the gay lifestyle, and they were into the abortion, and there were more or less people who lean in a direction that is contrary to what the scripture teaches. And yet, whether the election was stolen or not, I'm not an American, I'm not getting into that, but vast numbers of people voted Democrat. Even if it was that the Republicans should have won, there were still vast numbers of Americans who voted for it. So what I'm saying is that the development of this thing in America is not a small thing. And the fact that you have, the fact that you have so many people into, you have the schools in many places now, the schools are opening up for non-binary, I think, transgender bathrooms, men using women bathroom and all that kind of nonsense in certain states, and where you have homosexual marriage legitimized and being practiced in most of the states. These are the things that color the development of the country. The individual feelings about it are not the thing that shape the way the country moves forward. It's the direction of the powers that run the country. And based on this, America is heading in that direction. Now, you say there's going to be a great backlash. And if that happens, well, I'll be surprised, okay? I'll be surprised, but it might happen.
Question, David. Question.
Yeah, I have a few people before you win. Sister Diane, you go.
Brother David, you asked a question this morning about Romans 1 and why it would be put there, why God would allow. That's the first thing he deals with. I think it's because what I've found that in Rome, and I'm talking about Rome, who he was writing to the Christians in Rome, the Romans, right? And in Rome itself was rampant with pedophilia and homosexuality, and they were the first to even legalize marriage for that. So to me, knowing that history, why he starts with that is amazing, because that was what was the culture coming into that beast power, or that country, or that empire, whatever you want to call Rome at that time. That's what was happening. And so, and I never thought about it. Why would? And because you look at the rest of the book of the Gospel of Romans and all the things that you're taught, why start with that? Well, that's what was also happening in Rome at the time.
Sure. And I'm going Brother Arthur is next, and then Brother Wayne. But let me just comment. What I'm saying in essence, before I get distracted and I'd never get to make the point, here's what I want to say in essence. According to Romans chapter 1, there is a mark that is tied to a society that rejects God. Romans chapter 1 says that when a society rejects God, the visible evidence of this is the embracing of homosexual behavior. Now we might argue, why does that happen? I can suggest some reasons, but I know that the inspired writing says that that is what happens. When a society rejects God and it turns from their creator, it turns from its creator, they embrace homosexual behavior. The Bible gives us this outline. So the question that we have before us is, when the Bible talks about the last days upon this earth, is it a religious society, or is it a godless society? That is the question. The people who say it's going to be a religious society, then you can understand why they say it's going to be a Sabbath Sunday issue. They say it's going to be a religious society, and they say that they in this religious society, it's going to be a contest between one denomination versus another denomination. They think that the whole world is going to become Christianized, and in that Christianized world, it's going to become a Sabbath Sunday conflict. Okay, when I look at the book of Revelation, I don't see this. I see the world becoming secularized. I see the last kingdom described as the beast from the bottomless pit. And there are many things that indicate to me the world becomes more and more godless. And finally, they establish something that is imposed on everybody. There's a mark. There's something that is contrary to the will of God, but it is completely in harmony with this godless society. And while I'm not setting this in stone, I am leaning to the belief that this thing is the mandating, in some kind of way. They are going to mandate the acceptance of the gay lifestyle, or of that kind of perverted kind of lifestyle. But anyway, like I say, I don't know enough about that to set it in stone yet. So we'll see what happens. Okay, Brother Wayne, go ahead.
Oh, it's me, Brother David. It's not a question I have. It's just a quick comment. I know you wanted questions, but I was just thinking when you mentioned that even if we notice, we haven't heard anything about monkeypox anymore. And I was thinking to myself, when they attach the monkeypox virus to the LBGT movement, there was like a hush. There was an uproar, and then there's a hush. You hear nothing about it anymore. No push for any vaccine. No anything on the news to say that it is increasing in numbers or anything, because it was targeted on this particular group. And we realized that because you're saying something against this group, now you have to back off. And that is something that came out a bit striking to me. And what I see now, I don't watch football. I'm not interested in football at all. But my son Tajman was just saying to me that they're having issues at the moment with the World Cup going on, because some countries decided they want to carry this agenda to this Muslim country, and they are not up for it. And so we find that what you're saying is so true. They are trying to reach into places where they think one time ago were so stubborn. They tried with African nations, and sometimes they're bending. They've gone to the Caribbean and they're bending. And so they want to go even further to these other countries that were so staunch against this belief. And they're using sports and things like that, which seems to be normally a level ground. They're trying to use this to push their agenda. So there is indeed something going off here with it.
Thank you, Nikki.
David, may I just pinch something in?
Yes,
If that's okay. I was just thinking too, though, if Sunday is if Sunday law is it, and let us even say the government, it was under the beast itself, implemented by the beast itself, telling me to rest on Sunday and not to work on Sunday. How is that offensive to God? If I were to stay home and not do anything on a Sunday, I can't understand how that.
right. Yes, Wayne. That's one of the
If
things
you
I
were
was.
to put a law in place to say I should not work on Sunday.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Brother Ian.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother David. I'm going to make this very short. There are 2 points I wanted to make. I wanted to respond about the woman riding the beast, as Joel was questioning. No, the woman is riding the beast. She represents the beast. The beast is working through her. So I don't see a problem where that is concerned. The other point that I wanted to make, I'm going to make it past, Brother David, and ask you, please, to just wrap this up and go on to the studies in Revelation. Thank you.
Well, I can't. I think we're at the place where that request can't be accommodated this evening, because we're already so long gone. We just have to leave Revelation till next week. Sorry about that. Yes, Brother Raymond.
Yes, I totally agree with Brother Aon. Sometimes we ask sermonized questions and it detracts. But anyway, here is my question, Brother David. Very simple. We all know that the mark of the beast has to do with worship. Not a day that you worship. The day don't mean nothing, or whatever. But if it has to do with worship, how then can this gay agenda movement, right, affect us because we're not worshiping the gays. We're not worshiping, we're not following that movement, but it has to do with worship. How is it that the beast itself can come up with something that will affect our worship to God? So it's really about worship because this is going to be something that I believe, as you said before, that people are going to accept it because they like it and others won't. So there's a decision to be made. So that's my question.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Brother Ray. It's kind of similar to the question that Brother Modest asked. And the thing is, there are two kinds of people who receive the mark of the beast. There are the people who receive it because they are into it, and there are the people who receive it because they cooperate with it. That's why the Bible says they receive it in the right hand or in the forehead. As Paul says in Romans chapter 1, they not only do these things, but they take pleasure in those who do it. I saw a little sticker that says, "I am not gay, but I support the gay movement." Okay, so you have that kind of thinking. And how do people participate if you are not gay? The point is, they as I said a little earlier on, every chicken, every dog, every cat knows that this behavior is wrong because it is contrary to nature. There are people who are not Christians. There are people who you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to read the Bible. This is one of the things why this is a test that can come to the whole planet, because you don't have to read the Bible to show respect for God. People who get into this, inherently you are saying, I don't care what let me not use any unholy language. I don't care what the devil God wants to think. That is what somebody is saying who embraces this lifestyle or who supports it. You are somebody who, first of all, you have rejected God and you have come to the conclusion that the way God designed and made things. Well, first of all, you have come to the place where you don't believe God is the designer. That's why you are so barefaced in standing up against the order of nature. So what I'm saying is that this thing is tailor-made to test the whole world because it's something that is patently wrong. If we have a creator, what we are doing is flying in his face and say, you didn't create things properly. So you don't need to be a Christian. So it's tailor-made for the entire planet, whether you're a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, or whatever. Everybody knows by nature. The law of nature tells you that this is wrong. So how it will be enforced is what Brother Modest asked. And it's what I said I don't have a clear answer to. So in this case, I'm waiting to see what will happen.
Thank you, Brother David. I recall a hermeneutic principle you had introduced was when looking at Revelation, you should go back to the first use of words. And when it speaks of the image of the beast, the first use of image is how God created male and female to be the image of God. And I think that's compelling evidence in support of this transgender homosexual movement being part of the mark. But when I look at what Jesus had said, he said it'll be as it was in the days of Noah and likewise as it was in the days of Lot. I think we can all agree that the days of Lot very closely is related to homosexuality, transgenderism. And, you know, if you look even at ancient sun worship, it was cross-dressing and transgenderism is very much tied to the ancient Eastern religions. But the part about the days of Noah is you'll find before transgenderism or homosexuality is introduced to mankind, the first thing in the days of Noah from Lamech was actually polygamy. And that's different from wanton sexual advances. That is actually an ordained marriage with multiple partners. And I think Satan has set up two systems. So I want to ask you, that was my question, I'm rambling, sorry. When it says in Revelation 13 that the beast with lamb-like horn sets up an image to the beast, is that referring to an ecclesiastical power that'll come in the new world, or is it pushing transgenderism and homosexuality?
Okay, my understanding of the image of the beast, if we define our terms very carefully, the beast represents the old world kingdoms, and the new world beast is the American kingdom. Let me use the word kingdom advisedly. So the image of the beast will be a system that is set up within America, a system set up within America that mirrors the same pattern of government as the European governments that persecuted God's people. The emphasis here is on persecution. So you look at the nations of Europe historically. When I say Europe, I mean the old world. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome. And the characteristic of these nations was intolerance of contrary beliefs. It wasn't just the kind of perversions that they practice. What I think is being emphasized when we talk about the image of the beast is a totalitarian system of government that is intolerant of any kind of opposition. So what it suggests to me is that America that has been a bastion of the free, home of the free and the land of the brave, is going to establish a system of government that is intolerant and that will not permit any kind of opposition. And I think if anybody has eyes to see, you can see that kind of system developing in America. So the development of this system in America is what opens the door for the imposition of the mark of the beast. If America does not develop this kind of image, this kind of system, similar to what has been characteristic of old Europe, if America does not develop the same kind of system, then Christians will never be persecuted there. But the people who stand for God will be persecuted because America becomes a persecuting power. So that's what the image is in my understanding, Brother Michael.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
I see you, Brother Randall.
I just want to add one thing. Do any of you know what the percentage of Americans or LGBTQ people? You know, how many are in that group in America, percentage-wise?
About 12%, about between 3 and 12%.
Under 10%.
Yes.
Under 10%. That's a very small group of people to take such a powerful position, as far as I'm concerned.
Go ahead, Brother. Well, let me just respond to Randall quickly, Brother Michael. Brother Randall, I think all of us recognize this, right? What is appalling and what is amazing is that 10% of people can commandeer an entire country and so take control of it that they can impose their mindset upon the other 90% of people. That is what is astonishing. I don't expect 100% of America or 50% of America to become homosexual. What is appalling is that the 3% have so dominated the halls of government, have so controlled the legislature that they are able to pass the most horrific or the most absurd laws. They are controlling the country. How many of you believe in natural treatment? And you can't do it. The government will come and lock you up. If you practice natural medicine, the government will come and lock you up. So it doesn't matter how many of you think about this thing. It's the government. When the Bible talks, it talks about the system of government. Let me allow Brother Michael to finish.
Well, it goes hand in hand with that question because I've had trouble reconciling with this idea because the vast majority of Americans do not support homosexuality or transgenderism. But when I look at Satan's methodology, he always sets up two paths that are off the correct path. And obviously the one that we've spent most of the time discussing is homosexuality, transgenderism. I've talked about this briefly with Brother David and offline. It's very troubling to see this notion that there is still a very big religious movement in America that's against it. So I'm saying, what is Satan planning for them? And I encourage anyone to look into, this will sound ridiculous. I know this will sound ridiculous and silly, but in America, there is the fourth most popular denomination in this country is actually Mormonism. And look into their views of polygamy. And I could see very well that could be the two sides. Either you accept absolute transgenderism, homosexuality, or you might say, well, didn't the patriarchs practice polygamy? Didn't David? So that's just my thought on that.
Okay, Brother Michael. Sister Diane, I think.
Yes, I wanted to say, even though the percentages are small, there's 1% that rules the world. And we think, how could that be? There's people behind the scenes, 1%, because it's the money. It's who's behind the money. When you see studies that say crabgrass is great for you, you got to eat a lot of crabgrass. Then you got to follow the money. When they tell you cow's milk is just necessary, you just got to have it for strong this and that, you got to look for the money. And the money, the people who have the money are always a small group of people. And yet they push a narrative that, look at what happens with the people who were rioting in BLM and all this stuff this summer. How did that happen? You follow the money, and there was money behind it. So that's what this is about. They have lots of money. That's why they have lots of power. Doesn't matter about numbers.
And it's money that's going to cause, it's money that determines the direction that the world takes. As much as we find it distasteful, but it's the reality of the way things are. Let me just, I know that our time is just about gone, but I'd like to just present the scenario that I think is going to play out. I'd just like to share it. There is something in the Bible that gives us a pattern. And we have talked about this before. When we come to the chapter 13 in our study of Revelation, we're going to go back over this so we can delve into it more deeply. But you know that in the Bible, Jesus talks about something that he called the abomination of desolation. Daniel talked about it. Jesus said it would happen in his day, and he also suggested that it would happen again at the end of time. Daniel suggests it also. When you look at the abomination of desolation, what was it? In the time of Jesus, it happened when the Roman armies surrounded Jerusalem. Now, here's the thing that I would like us to consider. We have talked about this already, but I just want to leave us with this thought for this evening. In the time when Jerusalem was destroyed, there were three major powers, three of them. It's going to be the same thing at the end of time. When the abomination of desolation comes back, it's going to be three. Who were the three powers? First of all, there was a false religious church, a false Christianized church, the false religious body. That was the Jews. That was a false church that represents the Babylon of today. There was a true people of God. They were the true Christians, and they were mingled in with the false people, right? Christians were in Jerusalem, as well as the professed people of God, who were really not God's people. You had the three groups. You had them, and then you had the Romans. The Romans were the secular power. Now, the Jews and the Romans joined together to crucify Christ, and they joined together to persecute the Christians. So the both of them were hand in hand. You could say that the woman was riding the beast, Rome being the beast and the Jews being the woman. You could say she was riding the beast, but then the Romans broke up and Rome came against the Jews. And the Christians were mingled in there. And what does God say? God says, "Come out of Babylon, my people." God gave the Christians a break and they escaped out of Jerusalem. They got out of Babylon. They got out from among the Jews. And what happened? The secular power came against the false religion and they destroyed them. They wiped them out. The blood of Jews ran in the streets like gutter, like blood. Ran in the gutters like water. So we see a similar thing happening at the end of time. There are three major players. There's a secular power, there's a false religious power, and there are the true Christians. And the false religion is riding hand in hand with the beast, riding on her back. But at the end, the romance breaks up and they come against the false religious power to destroy it. And God says to his people who are in Babylon, "Come out of Babylon, my people, lest you be partakers of her sins and receive of her plagues." God's people get out of Babylon. Babylon is destroyed by the 10 horns, but God's people escape. That's what is going to happen again in the end of time. That's the picture that I see. I don't see religion fighting against religion. That's not the last battle. According to Daniel and Revelation, the last battle is between the beast trying to destroy God's people. And the beast is not the Roman Catholic Church. That's the point. That's the main point. However, it's going to play out, the beast is not the Roman Catholic Church. So,
And that's a very short period, isn't it? The 10 horns is for an hour, right?
very, very short. Very short. It's during the 7 last plagues. Anyway, I'm going to stop here for this evening. We're going to close with prayer. And then if we want to continue the discussion afterwards, that's fine. But I'm going to close off so we can end the recording and that we can, those who want to leave can leave.
That was a very good parallel, Brother David. I like that.
All right, Brother Ian. So afterwards, if we want to continue talking, we can. Let us give thanks.